Gilden, who is the founder of African Unity Initiative, Inc., and he's offering his story, behind the organization. And when I hear the story of people who are organizers, I wonder where was the seed for them to be such organizers, for them to have this mindset. And I know there are seeds planted. Him say some of the seeds came from books that he has read. So number one, you definitely want to be choosy about what your children are reading. If your children are not reading, make sure you have some quality books in the house. Even if you're reading with child, that's a good thing to do. I love that book, Sabah, Reawakening of the African Mind. It's a beautiful book because it talks about our story. Tony Browder has a great book, some great books that you can have in your household to actually teach our story. And I thought the point was so powerful that, if you don't know if you pull out the roots, then that plant doesn't grow, and you hear so many times, you have to know your past in order to continue moving forward in a progressive way in your future, or else you just kind of get stuck in a cycle. And so we definitely don't want that, and we give thanks for the pointers already. Jamal, I want to hear about the events that you put on as far as the youth initiatives that you do, the African Union initiatives that you do. I know you said Earth panels. So can you talk a little bit about those events that you put on for
Right. So the African Diaspora Dialogue is the first event. Well, it existed prior to African Unity Initiative existing. The organization grew out of that dialogue, which was necessary because there were so many negative myths and false narratives that were going around between the different groups of people of African descent. And I had access to people from the Caribbean, people from the continent of Africa who had immigrated to the United States, African Americans. I knew firsthand as an African American some of the things that I heard as I was growing up, and just some of the things that I had seen on television. The only thing were black people in the background of the Tarzan shows and movies, when they're spotlighting the animal, National Geographic, the children who are the subject of these charities, a sad song playing, or some white man in the middle of some staged village where they're holding up this flying on people's faces. And I just want to say this, and I repeat this all the time. I've lived in Africa. I've lived outside of the United States. There is at no point a time where people allowing flies to rest on their faces without moving them. That is a false narrative. But that disturbs me.
Some things are just important for you to clarify.
Because it's just like, oh, those people just accept that. Well, they're just used to bugs and stuff being everywhere. No, that's not a thing. So, and it was just important for me to do something about it. I was, for whatever reason, I don't know, and a lot of it comes from my mother. I was fortunate enough to be raised by my mother and father and my grandmother and grandfather. So I had two male figures that I grew up looking up to, and my mother was free enough to not have to step into their role, but was able to give me her piece. And so she was always a person who kind of starts before the plan is formed. She just does it. If it needs to be done, it's going to get done. I learned the word initiative from my mother. It was just, she would always say, take initiative. Clean before I tell you. Right. And so that's pretty much where the word initiative came from in the organization.
That's like classic mama words, right? Take initiative. My son peeping in the door. Just, yeah, take initiative.
So it was in me to not even think about, let me go get some other people to, or let me tell the professors that this needs to be done. I was like, I need to do this program. And I put it together in my head how I wanted it to look, started to think about it as I was talking to the different groups of people that I was, speaking with, whether that was on the campus of Howard or Atlanta Metro, where I was actually able to implement the program. And so when I was starting the organization out of the program, it was important for me to be able to get it out to as many people as possible. And I wanted to use, and I always like to pay homage to things that are already there. I don't want to feel like I have all the answers and that I'm the first person to think about these things. I want to pay homage to things that already existed in Atlanta, since this is where I was starting. This was my home base. So I was like, let me look at the historical black sites in Atlanta. Where can I do these things? And so I was at Georgia State. I just graduated. Auburn Research Library is like a skip away. And I was like, what other place would I have these things? Because it's on Auburn Avenue, which is historical for black economics. And we need to know that, and we need to re-embrace it and recapture that spirit. And it's a library focused on our history.
And research.
Right. And so let's talk about these things that are current while we sit in a place that's historical.
So these events, these are really dialogue events.
Right. And so
come together and have.
And so I like to call it a dialogue because it's a panel discussion. The panel is made up of an African American, somebody from the continent of Africa, somebody from the Caribbean, and an Afro-Latino. And the panel kind of serves as a framing device for the dialogue. It's not a discussion where the panel is just speaking at a passive audience. The audience is engaged in the dialogue, which is why it's a dialogue. It's back and forth. And so a lot of people may be on the cusp, like I spoke to earlier, of wanting to know. They may not know the word diaspora. They may not know what I'm talking about when I speak about African unity. They may be thinking that I'm only talking about the 54 countries on the continent and just them unifying and leaving us out. The diaspora is an important piece of that, because I believe that wherever we are as African descendants is Africa, and we can remake that. And so the way the panels flow, it's people in the audience, they are a better representation of what the African diaspora actually is. It has all the different perspectives of different people and their experiences, negative, positive, whatever it may be. And so the panelists are there to frame what the African diaspora is, what the conversation topic is going to be. And the flow of the dialogue happens where we've gone through many iterations where people would get up and talk, but a lot of people just like to hear themselves talk. And so they would, run time over, or there would be people in the audience who have very insightful things to say, but they're shy, and so they don't speak at all. So we just have people write down their questions. There's no hard stop of question answer. There is, you write down your comment, you write down your questions. It gets filtered through me, the moderator, and I ask and I direct the questions and comments to the panelists as the dialogue is happening. So it just flows. Yes. Anybody, all ages are welcome. There's no profanity. There's no obscenity. This is something that everybody needs to know, which is why I'm glad that I came on this show that is framed around what do we need to tell the children, because the earlier they know, who knows when they get access to this information, what they can go and create.
And it's mindset, like you said, it's how you think about stuff. It's how you think about things. That's why the unity wasn't happening, like you said, at Howard, because it's what they were thinking. This is what they thought. So I can imagine being in the room with so many people who are passionate about it and really telling truths instead of just all of these myths. And getting the unity in the room, it just sounds powerful. So when is the next one? What date is it, time and place? So
the next African Diaspora Dialogue is Black to Love. It will be August 10th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It will be at the downtown Decatur Branch Library, right across from Decatur train station at 215 Sycamore Street, Decatur, Georgia. That's 215 Sycamore Street, Decatur, Georgia. And you can get your tickets at www.africanunity.us. That's African, AFRIKANUNITY.US. And you'll be able to see the registrations. We have spots open for vendors. We have spots open for sponsorships and just regular registration. And it's on the front page of the website to make it easy. It's also on the events page. And
Have
so
more information about your initiatives, everything you're doing.
Everything else we're doing, and just to like sweep over some of the things that we do. When we go out into the community, it's called Bringing the Neighbor Back to the Hood campaign. And it's about recreating the spirit of what a neighbor is and building relationships where you are, and then taking those small micro relationships and communities that are building for themselves and connecting them to communities that we're working with. Right now, we're working in Haiti, we're working in Sierra Leone, Guinea, Mali, Uganda, and of course, Atlanta.
Well, keep up the strong work. I mean, you have been doing it and you continue to do it. It's very clear. I love it. I had heard your whole spiel from you. I've read many of things, and it's always good to hear it from you and the history behind how it all happened and how it came about. Giving thanks to everyone who planted seeds in you. Thank you, Jamal, for coming in. Say that website one more time.
That is www.africanunity.us. www.african with the K, AFRIKANUNITY.US.
Yes. Well, that's our time, people. Make sure you set your alarm to tune in next Thursday. We're going to have another special guest answering the question, what should we tell our children? And we're going to open the phone lines as well. So make sure you tune in next Thursday, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. to 8 p.m. every Thursday right here on 89.3 FM WRFG. Good night.